state anymore, but finger waves are a wet set, hand dexterity that will always be relevant. We get it that styles come back, repeat themselves. There's a trillion ways that you can do a wet set. I mean, that you can do a finger wave. We have the dry ones that Teresa done last week. We have the ones that people are doing with pin curl play set, or your not Marcel, that's what I use for the shop, your wand. But the dry ones, the wet set form can be the most detailed. They can be the most difficult. I know for a lot of people coming out of core, they hated them. They never had to touch them. It was trying to manipulate the hands, the gel, and the hair. So when I have taught core or set in for core for wet sets, for finger waves, my original request is if you can get an S, not necessarily the ridge. I'm not always looking for a deep finger wave because you gotta take it in steps. So if you can manipulate an S, if you can see an S in the hair and how it moves, then everything else, once you start connecting the pieces, we can manipulate, add, use clips, things of that nature. At Stay Board, you couldn't use clips, but it was just a trend that went for a while that allowed finger waves to be considered a deep wave when you put the clip in between to give a deeper ridge. So the easiest way to manipulate finger waves is to make sure your client's hair is saturated. I already shampooed this mannequin. I have a longer one too, just in case we need her for more detail. The very, very long mannequins, the new mannequins, they're going to be a lot harder because you're going to have shedding, but y'all just do your best. If you only have a long hair mannequin and you can get your finger wave at the base and you need to put a pin curl at the bottom, that's still okay as well because you're still doing the finger manipulation that's needed to traditionally work with a wet set. So again, I always find my clients completely back. And then in combing their hair back, you get to see natural parts, natural indentions, and things of that nature. So for a lot of people, we have our recession lines. Some people have widow feet. If I work with what the client already has, it's a lot easier to get my finger wave. So if I comb her straight back, and she is a very short cut, but if I naturally let it split, I'll get a better S from the start of where her hair splits versus me trying to force the foundation of my finger wave. Like Teresa was saying earlier, if you got the gel from school, you can cut the gel with water. If you like a thicker consistency, you can always add conditioner to your gel. And these mannequins that I have at the house with me today, they already have conditioner on it, but I do have leave-in. I have my Can2 gel. This is my go-to right now. It has avocado in it and a hydration. It's a hydrating gel with shea butter. Remember, my house is natural and as much moisture as I can retain for my girls on myself, especially in the sun, then I'll go for it. All right, the other thing with finger waves is the finger wave is the separation of your fingers, never necessarily the client, your finger and the look that you're going for. A lot of people are wearing finger waves for short pixie cuts. They're wearing it on the side. So it's really just your S with your all-purpose comb. But if you're trying to get a desired pattern within the hair, the best way to do it so that you aren't oversaturating, again, you comb the hair straight back and allow it to fall naturally. And my comb is also an extension of my fingers. So I try to use my all-purpose comb and do most of the work. There are some stylists that use two combs to manipulate their finger waves. I don't. I use just my fingers and a comb. I section in between my ridges because if my base is saturated enough, then I'll get the manipulation I need for the hair to do the S or the movement that I need. So I got conditioner in the hair already. She is saturated completely through. And I'm only applying gel to the base because my gel is my muscle and I can walk it through and manipulate it with my fingers and the comb once I start setting my fingernails. How many of y'all have the long hair mannequin only? If you have a short one, it'll be a hell of a lot easier. But if y'all working with your long baby, again, I am not trying to stress anybody out when it comes to fingernails. We are not in a setting to where we can walk you through every step. And I'm not.
I have a long one, but I can cut the hell out of it if I need to.
Yeah. So if you're not getting it, if you put in your picture, your stamp picture, or if you come back on the Zoom and show me, I probably can walk you through it if you need help. That's what we're here for. But if it's just illustrating and taking the healing back, step away from it.
Brandy, that's probably gonna be me because never have I ever performed finger waves. So I am mixing my gel right now, hoping that I can do it with you on the video.
That's fine, but you see how I'm combing through? And it's thicker because I have the conditioner in her hair already plus the gel.
Okay.
So it's giving me a lot more control. And I don't feel like I'm gonna have to beat my mannequin up to get the results that I'm looking for. So again, I will comb her hair straight back. And the hair is gonna always naturally, this is on any body, but the hair will naturally make its own parts. So there are two. I could do a deep finger wave for style, and then this will be on my shorter part, or in separating, I can make smaller finger waves. It's up
Can
to you.
the person mute their phone because it's really confusing to hear you? I'm sorry.
If I may interrupt, Brandy, I would recommend that you guys really water down that gel, because if it's too heavy, it's just gonna be a sticky mess, and you can never remove gel unless you wash it. You can always add more if you need to, but I had a lot of trouble with gel particularly, and I've been doing waves for a while, and I found gel very difficult. So make sure it's really watered down.
Okay. Especially, I don't know what gel we're using. I know we were at the school using Eco, and Eco it is a interesting concoction if you don't put the water in it to cut it. At the salon, I'm going to use a smaller amount of gel, conditioner, and mousse. That gives me a softer finger wave when my clients are under the dryer, because most of the time, 9 times out of 10, when I do the style, I'm going back and doing it with the Marcel's for a softer finger wave. I'm just setting it. All right, so can y'all see? Comb the hair in two different directions. What I'm looking for on my base is for it to be completely smooth. And when I was saying earlier that I am looking for an S, S as in the letter. So most S curve like a snake. It's the easiest way to think about it. If I start my finger wave here at the base, all I used was my index finger, and I slightly shifted forward, pushing the weight of her hair forward. Once I get my weight, that's when my two fingers come in. So I'm not pulling against the base of my finger wave or the stem of it. I'm gonna put my finger down for control. But in between where my weight is, and this is where, if I wanted to manipulate my wave and make it a deep wave, or if I want my ridge to be deeper, this is where I will put it in, right in between my fingers. I can either take the hair and smash it or take my fingers, smash them together. And I'm still manipulating the hair, but I'm only using the tip of my comb to get the remainder of the hair to go in my next X direction. Again, I apologize, y'all, because I don't have a tripod, and it's been a real Monday for me at home. So I'm just taking it easy. Finger waves are all about finger placement. So once I got my first ridge, index finger, and then this piece right here that came up, I can always take the tail of my, well, the ruler, the smoother of my comb, and go back in and smooth this out. So don't think that if I pick my fingers up, that my finger wave is ruined. Oh my God, I can't start over. It's not that. That's where your products come in and to smooth it back out if you use the tip of your comb, which I'm notorious for using. It's just making my manipulation that much finer. If I'm more like carving versus combing. Okay. And then I'm pushing back. I use my entire hand. I move my thumb out the way. I push back with the tip, but I'm tracing the inside curve of my hand to control my finger wave. Does that make sense? So when I get to the top of her hair, where it's lumpy and it didn't connect, this is one of the problems that I've seen a lot of people having. They didn't understand how to connect the next ridge. I'm just taking the tip of my comb again and carving it into my second wave manipulation. Smooth it out, carve, smooth. And again, the hair is going to guide you, and it's going to tell you where it lays the softest, the smoothest, where it will buckle. Our job is to listen to that and to control it, is where we come in with our products. This is a natural split. If it was on a client, this will probably be her cowlick. Do I want to force this piece to connect? Absolutely not. Because if I draw it from this side of the head and I move it to this one, I can manipulate when I carve to close this gap, but I can use the rest of this hair to swirl to my second finger. So I'm not going to force it, is what I'm saying. So if I'm allowing my hair to just naturally fall. Again, I'm using the front of my phone to push the hair back. And then I'll move my fingers over for my next manipulation. All right, again, paying attention to the client's hair. This could be a half colic or a recession area. I'm not going to yank at it. I'm not going to fight with it because I know that I can go back in and use the base of my comb to smooth it out into the style. Like I said, I use my fingers, I use my entire hand to control and support where I need this comb to push the hair to. So there's my S. Started on my base, and then this is my finger width. I can pinch with my fingers, use a clip. But in this situation, if the hair is short enough, I just use the back of the comb to smooth it out. Finger placement again. This one is a little bit wider than this one, but it's because of the movement that the natural movement that the hair is doing. I'm gonna always respect the natural movement because if this was to fall out, I could do a pin curl. I can use my Marcel's to stabilize it, but we're just trying to get formation when we're doing wet finger waves. Using our fingers. So for my colic area, like I said earlier, I'm not going to force. Now at this point, it's just a manipulation. Because if I would have forced it into this finger wave, I would have been tugging the whole time trying to keep it in. Apply some more gel. Definitely should have got my tripod. All right. Because I understand that this is my first finger wave, I'm going to manipulate with my finger to connect. So I'll push back to come forward. And that's on my cowlick. Now the hair that I'm pushing forward is what's going to connect my hole. And I can always use my fingers to smooth their hair in. So my cowlick. And I'm only using the tip of my comb, guys. Like I said, like a carving method. And if I use my finger to hold my carve in place, then I can drag again in the opposite direction. She doesn't have enough hair at the bottom because this was a clipper cut. I think it was number 3. So I will make a ridge on this part. And just softly lay this part down. Perfection? Absolutely not. If you can get it, perfect it, I would start with a short hair mannequin, not a long. It gives you more mobility. It gives you a little more control versus having to yank the longer hair. Abdiel's, the length on the top of his hair would be perfect to play with finger waves. Just with you moving your hair around where you have this small split, that's an indication that I can get his hair to move more just by him playing with it. Because the hair is going to tell you where it can live, where it can lay, and what it'll manipulate with or against. It's just a play on movement. Thanks, I needed that. So does that make sense? I can go over it again with the other mannequin if y'all need some more help. And if you want to stay on. Absolutely.
I'm probably gonna need help with the long hair mannequin.
Okay, that's fine. I'll stay on.
But I've got one done. It's not pretty, but
Let me see it.
Speak, send that so we can see it.
Yeah.
can you see it? It's right
Yes.
there.
I see it. But do you
Okay.
see your S?
Yes.
All right, go back to it. Because her hair is so long, you see how you clip at the bottom where your purple is?
Well, the only reason why I clipped right there was because I was working on the next section. I didn't want to bring any of that hair into the next section, so that's why I
Right.
clipped it.
Right, but what I'm saying to you is the same way you clip that purple piece for your silver metal clips, your longer ones, if you clip your ridge, then that gap that you have in the front,
Yeah.
necessarily by her recession line, if I clip that ridge, then I can play with that recession line
Okay.
with the end of my comb with a product to smooth it into the ridge.
Okay.
The ridge, because her hair is longer, it'll take longer to dry.
Yeah.
But the base of her hair, once it's dry and you comb it out, will give you the soft S pattern that y'all were doing last week with Teresa with the ponytails.
Okay.
So
So
as long as my base is just like we were talking about, I think it was Teresa, and then I said it last week for a 4-day. When we done the roller, when we done the state board perm, if my on base is correct, my half base I can manipulate. So in finger waves, my base is my stems, the flattest part.
Yeah.
So my first finger wave is on base. My second is off. It widened because of the indentation line, because of the recession line. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I'm going further down the head, so it's not going to be perfect. And I was doing it on Abdiel because he has nothing at the bottom to pull my weight down. All of them could be on base because he has a shorter amount of hair in that space. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like it's like if you'd like I don't know if you would approve of this, Brandy, but like those like boy haircuts that we have, like those will be a lot more
lot easier.
manageable. Like you will
Because that's what
actually
she
be
is.
able to have some success.
Yeah, that's what she is. She has no hair on this eye, y'all.
Yeah.
It was the number 3 asymmetrical. That's why I picked her. But then, like I said, I have this one as well. And she has a fringe, and I'll go over this one if y'all have longer mannequins so you can see. It's just an easier manipulation. I like that pink or Victoria. Veronica, I'm sorry, not Victoria. I'm trying to scan and look at y'all at the same time. But as long as I understand, if you cannot manipulate the push, if I can get you to do an S with your fingers, it's just like doing your baby hairs. You can get that S, then I can play with. If you keep playing with the S gets better each time because now I know, okay, if I push a little harder here and pull out here, I can get more hair. The S is the softness of it. the finger wave is the control. If you don't have the softness, the control feels harder. If the hair is too long, that bottom piece is gonna keep pulling and you're pulling like this, trying to get it. But if I don't have control up here, then I'm gonna pull all of this down. And that's where your clip will come in at if you have a long mannequin. Do I have a clip at this house? I think I got a clip. I'll do it on this one. Let me go get a clip. But if y'all have short hair mannequins, work with the short one. Y'all, we are not here to stress y'all out. We know that finger waves are not the numero uno on the list. Most people avoid them for the longest. But if you can understand it and control your finger placement, then again, this comb is just an extension of my finger. That's why I use my tip so much in the back of it. This is smooth. It's a perfect line. My ridge in between needs to be smoothed out. I can use product with that. If I'm trying to get a finer, cleaner line, then if I make my comb accessible finer, then that's the results I'm gonna get. It's just like when you have to start with your part and you're like, oh, for some people, parts were horrible. They couldn't make them straight. Use the tip of your comb and glide. That's all I was doing in my ridge was gliding with my comb to control where the ridge was and move the hair. I'll be right back. Let me get a clip.